So a while ago I made a video about my Lumix S5 Mark II and I was super positive about that camera. I would go as far as to say I actually love the thing. However, at the end of the video I mentioned that I might be looking to sell it, and for a very specific reason. Needless to say, I did end up selling the camera and switching to the Sony A7 Mark IV. Now, I've been using this thing professionally full-time for about 6 months now, so I've got some thoughts on it. I'll tell you later if I actually regret switching to this camera or not, and what I like and what I don't like about the system, but maybe you're also looking to switch to Sony from Lumix or some other brand. So in that case, I'll make sure to mark every single clip in this video that's not shot on this camera. Like this one is shot on my DJI Ronin 4D. I'll put it up there. Parts of it are also shot on my DJI Pocket 3 or even my Mavic 3 Classic. But all the other things are shot on the A7 Mark IV. A genius hybrid, I must say. Anyways, time for an adventure.
Montenegro is a wild beauty. Wild beauty. If you look around, this is wild, but it's also beautiful.
What are we doing here?
We check the snow.
We zijn niet ready. The cycling adventure has officially started and we're right now high up in the mountains of Montenegro, of the Durmitor area. This right there is the saddle path and it's steep, it's a steep bit. Anyways, I'm using my Sony right now. I used to do these adventures and almost everything on my Lumix, but so far it's going pretty well. In a way, they're kind of the same camera. I didn't really notice much of a switch between bodies. Obviously, besides the menus and whatnot, but most importantly for me, I switched because of the lenses. Back in the capital, in Podgorica, Montenegro is such a beautiful country. Honestly, it was an amazing adventure cycling through this raw, harsh nature through the mountains. So I come from all the way up there, it's about 13 degrees up there, and here in Podgorica it's 33 degrees, so I'm sweating. Okay, and so if you remember, the main reason I gave for switching away from Lumix and to Sony or some other brand was lens choice, because as a photographer, videographer, the most amount of money, the biggest investment actually, is in lenses. And so the L-mount ecosystem didn't feel like it had that much upgrade potential within the camera bodies. The S5, the S1 kind of felt like the top. And so within the E-mount you can grow much further. You can go all the way up to the Venice, which in and of itself might have been a bit of a risky or unnecessary maneuver to make. You see, I was actually pretty happy with my Lumix, and so switching felt like a bit of a waste of money. But looking back, I'm pretty happy I did so. Let's go through some ups and downs of the system I discovered. I will say straight away, a big up for me is the app. The Sony has a wonderful app ecosystem and it connects instantly. For me that's really important because after a long day of cycling here or in Africa, I want to post some pictures on the socials. But I'm not gonna take out my laptop, plug it into the wall, start editing away. That just takes up so much time and I'm also pretty exhausted after cycling all day. So for me, having an app that works great to just drop some photos on my phone, edit them quickly in Lightroom and post them is wonderful. And that's something Sony does amazing. Look at those mountains. I mean, I wish I had that at home, but Belgium is such a flat country. It's so boring. Second thing I love a lot about Sony cameras is the accessory support. Both third-party accessories like battery chargers, cases, water housings and so many other things, but also first-party accessories like the mic that I'm using right now. It's a small little mic, yes, and it's a bit overpriced also, yes, but I love it a lot. It just plugs in to the hot shoe, no cables, no fuss. I can take it off, throw it in my bag, forget about it. And also I can choose the direction that it's recording the sound. Really handy in a run and gun situation like YouTube, or when I'm out somewhere very remote and can't really use big mics. What I also really like is just the amount of lenses you can choose from. Not just from Sony itself, but like every manufacturer seems to make an E-mount version of their lens. Anamorphic lenses, just funky lenses, cheap lenses, whatever. And also, when you're somewhere at an event or working together with some other creators, chances are high that they're also using Sony. And that means they know how to use your camera. You can borrow a lens maybe, and that's just a lot of fun. However, there are also a lot of similarities. And I find personally, like the photo quality, it's basically the same. Video quality is also pretty close. Autofocus and the codecs, it's also kind of the same, but there are also some negatives. So personally, I have noticed that the Sony is a bit more noisy than the Lumix, even at low ISO, which is a bit strange, but you can maybe also explain it because of a higher megapixel count. Other than that, I think the stabilization is a bit worse. It doesn't have open gate, which is unfortunate. And the built-in LUTs feature of the Lumix is non-existent on the Sony. Something that I don't miss at all, but maybe some of you might. Anyways, with that, it's time to head home and leave this beautiful country of Montenegro, and I'll tell you if I actually miss my Lumix, if I think I made a mistake, or if I'm actually happy that I switched to Sony. Okay, so maybe I've really procrastinated recording the outro of this video, and also the studio is a bit of a mess. But anyways, there are a couple of things that I really miss with this Sony camera. Like open gate, honestly, it can be useful at times. I like shooting in a square aspect ratio and it just gives a little bit more headroom. I also really miss IBIS with anamorphic support as well as a built-in fan. I've had this thing overheat on me a couple of times, not that often, but I mean, the Lumix never overheated on me. So those are a couple of small things that I really do miss about that old camera. But then on the plus side, obviously it's so nice to use E-mount lenses and switch them between my Ronin 4D and this camera. And also Sony cameras in general, I really like using them. The menu system is pretty great, the app support is awesome. And Sony produces both genius video cameras and photo cameras. So if I ever upgrade to FX9, Venice, whatever, I could. But also if I want a really good photo camera, I could buy that too from Sony and use all my E-mount lenses, which is awesome for me. But since I do both at the moment, I need a kind of hybrid camera, since I don't have the money to have a dedicated photo camera, video camera, another video camera, etc. I do have a dedicated video camera, of course, the DJI Ronin 4D. And so my gripes like not having a fan and whatnot, they don't apply that much because this is just my B camera. Though sometimes during an interview I would rather have peace of mind that this wouldn't overheat, but you win some, you lose some, I guess. I think the A7IV is a genius hybrid camera, and now that the A7V is out, the A7IV lowered even more in price, and I think it's a pretty interesting deal, especially because the A7V doesn't have that much new to offer. Also, tomorrow is my birthday and I might have got myself a little birthday present. So yeah, I totally would recommend buying an A7IV actually, even now that the A7V is out, because the difference, trust me, it's not that much and the price is really competitive. However, since this is a hybrid camera and I'm taking more pictures lately, I do kind of want to add another photo camera to the collection to up the wildlife game, to have a little bit more megapixels. You know, it's always nice to play with. But I'm not yet convinced what exactly I would buy. Maybe the A7R5 or R6. Or maybe the ACR Mark II. whatever. Let me know in the comments down below if you've got experience with either of the three and which you would recommend. Speaking about comments, I would like to round off this video right here and go over some comments from the previous video about my Lumix. S5II is the ultimate travel documentary film camera, none better. You are beating out everything up to the $4,000 range for documentary. Interesting take, and I think I agree with you on most things. That's also why I bought the S5II, because I was really convinced this is a genius package of a camera. The open gate, anamorphic stabilization, the fan, those are all things that are pretty hard to beat, and you don't really get that until you go up in the range to the FX3 or cameras from example Canon that are similar. Not only camera is your good choice, the car is also a super base for long adventures. Totally agree with you on that. I love my Mitsubishi, and now that I'm back in Belgium I can drive it again and go on little adventures. Much more coming this summer. Nice video regarding the L-mount cinema camera options. Blackmagic cinema camera 6K, full frame uses L-mount, so does the Pixel 6K or 12K. L-mount lenses unfortunately don't retain as much second-hand value as Sony lenses, so it's good to explore other L-mount camera options before trying to sell. That's true. However, I'm not really a Blackmagic fan and I won't go into the details in this video. As well as in my local market, there are not that much L-mount lenses available, so I would rather invest in the Sony lenses and sell them for a good price later, as well as buy some second-hand Sony lenses here, since L-mount is not really findable on the second-hand market in Belgium. And if I buy them new, like he says, the value is just gone. Has the rolling shutter bothered you much? No, absolutely not. I don't really do things that pan to side quickly like race cars or other sports, so I don't really encounter the situation much. However, in general, it's just not that big of a deal on Lumix, I find. Great and thoughtful video, thank you. Also loved the color grading. Well, we're round up right here. The color grading from this video, as well as the previous video, is done in Dehancer. I think the discount code from Dehancer still works from the previous video, so I'll put it down below yet again. I believe the code to get a discount was Real Film. As well as if you like the music from audio, I've also got a 70% discount for you. You do what you wish, and that being said, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.